I'm gonna try to be a little quieter because everybody's still in bed because I got up early to do this. But one of the first things you're gonna wanna do is select your brisket. And the way I like to select it is, I want it to be a little floppy. The reason for that is if it's really hard to bend, you have a lot of hard fat in there. And the hard fat is not gonna wanna render down well. So, open our brisket. Put that right to the side here. And have a little trash can off to the side. Okay, so I'm going to want to dry it off a little bit first. And we're going to start this about an hour before we're going to put it on the smoker, because I want the brisket to kind of come up to temperature a little bit. And you can do that with beef. Don't do that with any pork or chicken product. We're going to remove any of the kind of silver skin ligament here. So one of the first things I'm going to do when trimming and that's because that's not going to, it's not really going to render down very well, and it won't add to the overall finish of the brisket. Next, I'm gonna turn it so you guys can see it. Right here, there's some fat, and you can see it's really hard fat. It's not gonna render down well. So I'm gonna trim it off. And this little piece here, we can trim this off for sausage, but a little piece hanging off, that's not going to cook up well. That's just gonna burn. So let's go ahead and trim off this chunk of fat. And that fat is really hard. That's not going to be good for sausage or tallow. With most of the silver skin taken off the bottom and a big chunk of fat taken off, I'll flip it over and trim up the top. I want to have about 1/4 of an inch of fat on the top here. Okay, and that one's trimmed up about how I want it. So I'm going to go ahead and trim the other one, then we'll season them. For the seasoning of the briskets, I'm using Central Texas style. So that's kosher salt and number 16 mesh black pepper in equal amounts. So just get these seasoned up. And then I'm going to let it sit for about an hour at room temperature. While that's happening, I'm going to get my smoker set up, and then it'll be time to put it on. Okay, I'll get my smoker preheated to about 250, and then these will go on. Okay, it's been about an hour. These have kind of come up to room temperature. Beef is the only one you want to do that with, not pork. So let's get them on. I'm going to put this one on the bottom because it's a little bit thicker, and I want it to absorb more of the heat, where this one is thinner, and I want to kind of protect it a little bit. I'm doing that because I have a vertical smoker. If you have a horizontal, I put this one closer to your firebox. And I'm going to be using oak today to smoke this with. And we're going to let it smoke for about 5 hours. And after 5 hours, we'll come back and check it. All right, it's been 5 hours, so that's about as much smoke as I want on it. So let's wrap them. Wrapping your brisket is kind of controversial. Some people call it the Texas crutch and say you should never wrap in it. I've always wrapped, it's always been moist. I've never had any trouble, so I'm pro wrapping it. So we'll wrap it up, and then I'll check back in maybe about 3 hours and check the temperature, check the tenderness, and see what we have. I'm going to wrap it pretty tight, and I have a second piece of aluminum foil underneath it. This one is just to protect the bottom. In case there's anything on the grate that'll make a hole, it won't go through there, because I want to keep all those pieces. Check back in 3 hours. Okay, it's been 3 hours, so the briskets have been on for 8 hours total. So let's give them a check. What I'm going to be looking for is not really an internal temperature. It should be at about 200 degrees-ish. What I'm looking for is tenderness. So let's go ahead and pull this out. Close it up so I don't torch myself. And my trusty thermostat, kind of take a temperature reading and also probe tenderness. So I'm going to the thickest part, and I'm about 207, it says. And as I'm pushing through here, I'm not feeling a whole lot of resistance. It's not like I'm jamming into something hard. There's a little resistance, but not much. I think that other resistance will get taken care of in carryover cooking time. I'm gonna go ahead and loosely wrap this, because you want to let your brisket rest for at least an hour. Even 2 hours is ideal. If you don't and you cut it right away, it's going to instantly dry out. You want it to probably drop in temperature closer to 120, 130 degrees, I'd say, when you're serving. Otherwise, it's going to dry out. So this will help it to absorb all the moisture back into it. And I'll check the other one, but this one is ready to rest, and then we can get the slicing. Okay, well, dinner is made, and I got Pitmaster Chloe with me. We have our green beans, our cream corn, our rolls, and now it's time to slice some brisket. So what I'm going to do, you have a piece here, it's called the flat, or the lean, and then you have the point, or the moist. So I like to separate it. And don't even have to squeeze it, you can see it's juicy. So then what we'll do is we'll turn it, and we're going to slice thin slices like that. So you want to try?
Yeah.
Yep. Okay, go about that thin. Real gentle. Okay, you want to try a piece?
Yeah.
Here you go. What do you think?
That's good stuff right there.
Good. And for this one, I actually turned it the opposite direction to cut. And then I'll cut it actually in thicker slices because of the grain direction of the meat. This has a coarser grain. I don't know if you can see that. The grain is a little more coarse, I cut it a little bit more thick. All right. And that's how I do brisket.